Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to cover the Bears-Packers wildcard round. Incredible game. It was a total chess match. You had Ben Johnson cooking up on the offense in the first quarter. Then the Packers adjust. Then the Bears adjust. Then the Packers adjust again. Jeff Hafley was cooking with his adjustments against Ben Johnson. It was just a heck of a game. So we're going to go through exactly how this offensive matchup worked for the Bears, what they saw, what they adjusted, what the Packers did on defense. So we're going to cover all of that. I think it's one of the best pieces of content I'm going to ever put out. Absolutely incredible. It's so in-depth, so I can't wait to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoy the video. Make sure you like and subscribe. I appreciate all of the support, but I hope you enjoy. This game was a story of the significant downs, the third downs, the fourth downs, the big plays at the end on first and second down from the Bears offense against the Packers defense. That's where this game was won and lost. So we're going to go through each of those significant downs, starting with the first drive and just working through chronologically. So we'll start out with the first third down of the game, this 3rd and 3. You see the Bears just come out in this 2-by-2 look, and the Packers respond with a cover 3. And the Bears, they have something nice dialed up. They just have a nice little underneath sit route from Luther Burden. He's going to be running the drag against man, but against zone, he's going to settle down right in between them. You hit for the first down. So that goes for a win for the Bears. They beat the Packers there in that soft kind of underneath zone. They picked up the first down. So then you see this next third down, that same drive, you have this wide bunch left look. And once again, the Packers are showing that zone defense. You only have those 2 DBs over against those 3 receivers. They show this very in-depth kind of bubble blitz zone pressure scheme. So the Bears are like, let me just flip it out to Luther Burden, pick up the first down. They pick up 12 yards on a 3rd and 8. So that's another win for the Bears working against that soft defense for the Packers. So then 3rd and 1 later that drive. This one isn't too relevant, but I just wanted to show it because it was a third down. They just hand it off up the middle, pick up a 9-yard gain on a 3rd and 1. So another win for the Bears there. But then on a 3rd and 12, this was a really significant play, I think, because they come out in this 3-by-2 look on that third down. And then from that, they run this like kind of mini dagger concept where you have a clear out route from the slot and then just kind of like a shallow in from DJ Moore. And once again, he works underneath that zone coverage. They hit DJ Moore and he turns vertical and picks up the first down on a 3rd and 12. So another win for the Bears working against that underneath softer zone coverage on third downs, which is why then the next third down, you see the Packers, they switch to man. They don't want to keep getting beat by that zone. So now in the red zone on a 3rd and 5, they switch to man. It stops the Bears. Everything is smothered and Caleb Williams kind of has to just throw it away. They settle for a field goal. So that was the first drive. You saw a lot of that zone coverage at the Bears beat, but then late in that drive, they switched to man, made the adjustment, and stopped the drive. Now we're on to the next drive, and it's a 3rd and 5. The Packers are once again running that man coverage. They don't want to get beat by that zone again. That was something that the Bears clearly were strong with, so they run that man again, and this time you see it just like that last play. They beat him in that man coverage. Caleb Williams doesn't have anyone open immediately. Maybe he could have hit Colston Loveland sprinting out to the flat. If I replay it, he was a little available right there, but on a 3rd and 5, that's a tough play to make, and Caleb Williams ends up rolling out and only picks up 3 yards. Kind of a crazy play for an only 3-yard gain. But then on a 4th and 2, you see the Bears then respond immediately to that tendency of man coverage because they run a man-beating concept. So they have this 3-receiver set. They motion Loveland in, and this is the key because when they motion him in, now the Packers defensively, they run banjo. So they're going to pass off their receiving assignments based off of what the route distribution is. And when you see here, you have the outside release because he's the perimeter receiver. He releases more to the outside. So that perimeter DB takes him. But then as Loveland works underneath this receiver, he becomes the number 2 on that side. So the second guy in from the sideline. So that means this guy's going to pick up on him. So obviously he's going to sit down. But then Quay Walker also, this is what caused the miscommunication because Quay Walker is going to settle down on this as well because you can kind of see like it looks like Loveland is going to be working underneath more, which would make it Quay Walker's assignment since he would be inside of him. So it's kind of that stacked release, how they kind of run at the exact same angle. That causes the miscommunication, that attacked the man coverage, and DJ Moore gets wide open on the crosser across the middle. because they attacked that man. So as soon as the Packers adjusted, only 2 plays on those significant downs, that 3rd and 5 in the red zone, and then that prior 3rd and 5, they ran the man coverage. All of a sudden, Bears came back and attacked it. So that's an awesome adjustment from Ben Johnson. And then we see a 3rd and 7. This was a weird play call. This is that same drive, and Packers kind of stacked the box because the Bears come out in this 12 personnel look. They just put their DBs on an island and then have this single high safety. You can kind of see him down at the bottom, and they just run the ball. Like, this is a very Detroit Lions play call. I don't know exactly why Ben Johnson called this. It goes for 1 yard, so not very effective there. But then on a 4th and 6, you see how the Packers responded to them beating the man coverage. This is what's so awesome. It's a total chess match because they come out in another 3-by-1 set, just like what we saw in that prior 4th down. And this time the Packers are showing man coverage. You have all the man defenders on all the receiving threats. Not 100% sure who would be on the running back, but somebody would. Then you have that single high safety. So it looks like a cover 1. You got the man defender on the X receiver, but then on the snap, they rotate into a Tampa 2. So it's a cover 2 invert. It is absolutely smothered because the Bears ran another man beater. They thought they were going to continue in man coverage, but Jeff Hafley outsmarted them entirely because you see they have that mesh concept. The mesh concept attacks man coverage. Well, they were in man coverage, obviously. Caleb Williams has to fire it deep to Luther Burden, and it ends up getting picked. Another kind of weird play. He should have just batted it down, but heck of an adjustment from Jeff Hafley there. So that's the second drive. So now we're on to the third drive. And on the first 3rd down of that drive, a 3rd and 5, you notice that this directly correlates to the first 3rd down of the game, a 3rd and 3. Because on that 3rd and 3, they called this 2-by-2 kind of condensed set. And you notice that the Packers ran that cover 3 and they hit underneath to Luther Burden just on that drag across the middle. So then in the 3rd and 5 that directly correlates, now back on that 3rd drive, they call a very similar condensed 2-by-2 set. Packers respond with that exact same cover 3. So Ben Johnson has a solid play dialed up. You have this crosser from DJ Moore, and that's going to carry the hook zone, Quay Walker, but then Colston Loveland is blocking and releasing. So nobody picked him up because you have a flat from the running back that carries the flat defender. The deep outside third isn't responsible for a block and release, and then that hook zone carried DJ Moore. So all of a sudden, Colston Loveland's wide open underneath. Caleb Williams hits him, but it ends up being a really weird play. Like, it gets ruled an incomplete pass. I thought that might have been a catch and fumble, but either way, that did not work out for a complete pass. So now they bring up 4th and 5, and Ben Johnson had a perfect play dialed up. This 4th and 5 that they missed on their own 32 was not on Ben Johnson. This was a good play call, and I think a pretty good decision to go for it because they had the perfect play dialed up. Because if you remember, on the prior 4th downs, the Packers ran man coverage the first one, and then they ran show man Tampa 2. So you had Ben Johnson dialing up a perfect play, which is motioning DJ Moore across. When you motion him across, Luther Burden is going to be running a drag. So the man defender on DJ Moore naturally gets kind of in the way of Luther Burden's man defender. Luther Burden works underneath, and he would have been open, but the ball gets batted at the line of scrimmage. So that was a schematic win for Ben Johnson, even though the play didn't necessarily work out. And if you look, if they were in that Tampa 2 where they show the man and then rotate back, Ben Johnson had that beat again because you have the wheel from DJ Moore and then the post from Loveland, so that would have carried the deep half and then cleared that cloud flat. That would have worked against the Tampa 2. So either way, Ben Johnson was winning, but all that happened was the execution failed. So, oh man, Ben Johnson, that was, I thought, a pretty good call. I know he got a ton of hate for it, but I thought that was solid from Ben Johnson. Now we're on to the 4th drive, which is the drive right before half. It was like under 2 minutes, so it's slightly different play calling because they're more worried about not giving up the big play, and the Bears can't really just call like a run play on a 3rd and 1. So it's slightly different schematically, but what you see is that this play calling from the Packers kind of foreshadows what they're going to be calling later in the game when they're running their prevent defense, trying to prevent those big plays from having the Bears catch up and win the game, which, as we know, they ultimately did. But like you see here, they're running this deep cover 2 invert. They really take away the deep shot. The Mike runs back and carries DJ Moore on his post, and they actually had a cross-field post dagger concept dialed up. You could have hit the dig here. I don't think Caleb Williams finds him. If he gets his head back, that's a tough throw. I think Caleb could have hit it, but he doesn't hit it here. He ends up just taking it for a 6-yard gain. But you do notice that very soft zone coverage from the Packers. They're okay giving up stuff underneath, but what they don't want to do is give up that deep shot. So then on the 4th and 4, that next play, same drive right before half, you notice that the Packers, they just run another deep zone. They run a cover 3. You get his great zone chuck from Quay Walker there. He's going to really throw off the timing of this route to Colston Loveland, and that causes the incompletion. So great play from Quay Walker there. Not sure the Bears knew 100% what the Packers were going to be in because they didn't have much film to base it off of. But for a summary of the first half, because now we're going to go into the second half, you do notice that the Packers, they started out with that soft zone. The Bears run underneath, start beating that soft zone. So the Packers switch into man. Then the Bears, they counter against the man. And you kind of see this chess match develop between the man coverage, the show man into zone, and a lot of those 3rd and 4th down play calls. Now we're on to the first drive of the second half. And the Bears, they call this bunch left look because this directly correlates to the second 3rd down of the game, the 3rd and 8, because this is a 3rd and 7. And if you remember on the 3rd and 8, they called this bunch look. This was a little bit more spread out, but the Packers responded with a cover 2 invert. You see that field safety, or field corner, he kind of drops back off, takes the deep half. So the Bears, remembering that after they hit this screen for the first down, then on their 3rd and 7, call a very similar bunch look, and the Packers once again show that cover 2 invert. They rotate that safety over, he takes the deep half, and the Bears have the perfect concept drawn up because Rome Odunze, he takes the deepest corner, and that's going to carry off this deep half, and then Colston Loveland runs a slightly shallower corner, which gets right in between the flat defender, who was held down by DJ Moore on the quick out, and then right in between that, and then the deep half that was carried by Rome Odunze. So it works out here. Caleb Williams throws a real nice ball, gets it in there to Colston Loveland for a big gain. Great design from Ben Johnson, attacking what they had already seen earlier in the game. And then later in the drive, you see a 3rd and 14. And this directly correlates to a 3rd and 12 we saw earlier in the game because they called this 3-by-2 look, and the Packers respond with cover 4. Now, if you remember the 3rd and 12 that we saw from the first drive, the Bears, they came out with this 3-by-2 look, and the Packers, they showed a cover 4. So the Bears remembered that. They remembered the fact that they got DJ Moore running this quick underneath, picked up the first down. So this time, to attack that cover 4, kind of just like what they did before, they ran a double post concept. So Luther Burden, he's going to run a post. That's going to carry this deep inside quarter. And then Rome Odunze, he runs a post as well, which attacks the outside shade leverage of this outside quarter. But you notice this play would be open. Double post attacks quarter. So once again, another schematic win for Ben Johnson that the execution fails because Luther Burden, I'm not 100% sure if this is like designed or something, but he kind of holds up at the top of his post. You see him, he kind of stops. And if he kept running at full speed, that's going to carry off this deep inside quarter. That allows for the perfect window on that post right there. Caleb Williams was even looking right at it and they couldn't hit it because Luther Burden held up, that ball would have landed right in that inside quarter's arm. So Caleb Williams has to take the check down, and they fail on 3rd and 14. So then that leads to a field goal. But once again, you saw Ben Johnson, he was cooking on that drive, even though the execution failed. So then the Bears really get some momentum going. They go all the way down into the red zone. They don't even get a 3rd down. This is the first 3rd down of the drive, all the way down at the 9-yard line. And the Bears, they didn't really do too much schematic. They just started executing a little better on that drive. But then it brings up this 3rd and 4, and they just give this inside give to DeAndre Swift. So nothing too big schematic here. It picks up 3 yards, solid play for him, and it brings up a 4th and 1. And then this 4th and 1 is just an absolute mess. This has nothing to do with anything schematic. I'm not sure exactly what happened here. Maybe this was directly correlated to that first 3rd and 1, but you see, I mean, this play was just broken. The center completely misses the defensive tackle. He comes free on play action. That's unacceptable. And then DJ Moore falls in his route, so that's broken. Colston Loveland falls in his route. I mean, this was just a terrible play. I mean, I don't know what happened. Ends up being an interception. So we can kind of disregard that. Like, obviously you can't disregard that in game, but that was a pretty bad play for the Bears and doesn't really have much to do with the chess match. So now we're on to the 7th drive, the 3rd of the second half, and this time the Bears have a 3rd and 4, and you notice that the Packers are really prioritizing the passing game because the Bears had beaten them in the past, a few of the prior 3rd downs. They don't want to get beat again, so this time you have the 1 tech and then a 9 tech, so there's a lot of room in between them. You have these 2 high safeties, you got the guys out over the receivers, the guys over the tight ends, so the Bears, they just give it right into that B gap. They pick up the first down, pick up 5 yards on a 3rd and 4. Really solid play called there. But then what you notice is that this 3rd and 10 is directly tied to both of those 3rd and longs that we saw before, because this time they call a very similar look. It's a 2-by-2 look. If you remember, both of the prior times were 3-by-2 looks, so it's structurally pretty similar. You see it here. The Packers show showed that quarters look. You hit underneath to DJ Moore. I'm sure we remember this. And then you see that other one, the 3rd and 14, where they had the double post concept dialed up that attacked the cover 4. But this time on a 3rd and 10, very similar to the 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, they called something that would have attacked quarters, but the Packers respond this time and they run a cover 2 invert. So this beat their play because they changed up the play call slightly. The Bears were expecting quarters because that Mike in a quarters shell, he would have sat down right on Colston Loveland, and then the dig would have worked right behind him underneath the inside quarters, and they would have been able to pick up the first down. But this time it results in a sack. Caleb Williams fumbles it, and they end up having to settle for a field goal. So that was a great one there from Jeff Hafley to be able to adjust and change his quarters shell into a cover 2 invert, eliminate their play design. So now we're on to the 8th drive, and we're going to start shifting away from just the 3rd and 4th down play calls, because this is where every down becomes significant. The Bears needed to get like 12 points in like 8 minutes or something. So the Packers, like I said, how at the end of the first half, they started kind of foreshadowing what they were going to do at the end of the second half with their more prevent style defense, preventing those big shots. And you see here that the Bears perfectly attack it. They come out in this 3-by-1 set, and they run a deep flood concept, and the Packers run a cover 4. So a very soft zone coverage style defense. And you have the clear out route from DJ Moore, the corner from Colston Loveland, and then the flat. The flat holds down the flat, and then Colston Loveland gets open on the corner. Caleb Williams hits it. Big chunk play against a soft zone coverage. So it's kind of like, Packers, I don't know about this. Why are you guys going into the zone coverage? So then they go back to man, and the Bears immediately attack it. So this is a 2nd and 10, that same drive. That first play was a 1st and 10. And here they motion the tight end across and get the linebacker matched up across from Loveland. Loveland's obviously a much faster linebacker or a much faster player than the linebacker. And the linebacker tries to carry him. Once again, another flood concept. You have the clear out route, and then Colston Loveland works against that man coverage. Caleb Williams delivers a perfect ball. Execution there kind of won, even though the Packers, they shifted to man coverage. It was a good switch on to Colston Loveland to get the matchup with the linebacker, but that still required a heck of a play from Caleb Williams. And then later in the drive, 3rd and 5, you see a touchdown. This is a risky play call. It's a 3rd and 5, and they're going to run the ball. And what I notice here is that they have the wide receiver, Zacchaeus, aligned as the fullback. When he sprints out to the flat, that carries one guy out of the box, and then they hit right where he vacated. Darnell Wright clears the way, and DeAndre Swift hits right behind him, gets a touchdown. Great play call from Ben Johnson. They're a little risky, but I liked what I saw from him. The Packers were playing a little bit softer, and he took advantage of it. All right, now we're on to the 9th drive, and you see on the first 3rd down, a 3rd and 3, the Bears call this bunch left look and then motion DJ Moore across. Now that creates a pretty condensed 2-by-2 look. So if you remember on a 3rd and 3, the first 3rd and 3 of the game, the Bears called that exact same or a very similar 2-by-2 condensed set. The Packers responded with some variation of a cover 3. So you saw that there, and then obviously that already had a correlating play, that 3rd and 5 that they motioned from a 2-by-2 into a 3-by-1. Packers once again respond with cover 3. So you see that there. So that means that this 3rd and 3 is directly correlated. So you motion DJ Moore across. The Packers run cover 3 once again, and you have a perfect play dialed up. You have a little spacing concept. I believe the Packers, they switched into a cover 3 match now because this flat defender carries the hook, and then DJ Moore, he is wide open out to the flat, but Caleb Williams does not find him. It's an incomplete pass. So then after a false start, it's now a 4th and 8 after that 3rd and 3, and Ben Johnson comes right back to that bunch look. This time it's a bunch look with the tight end over there, so a quads bunch look, and again, you see the Packers respond with a cover 3 match. That flat defender carries DJ Moore vertically, and then Colston Loveland sprints out to the flat. Again, Caleb Williams had a guy open in the flat, does not find him. Now he makes a miraculous play, but in the film room, I'm sure Ben Johnson is like, do not do that again. This was physically a phenomenal play, but you cannot miss a wide open guy in the flat twice in a row on a 3rd and 3 and a 4th and 8 and expect to continue to win games. That's just not possible. They can't do this again against the Rams. That's not going to happen. So I'm sure Ben Johnson was all over Caleb Williams in the film room for that. I know Caleb was getting really glazed for this play, but if you look at the all-22 like we are now, it really was not that great of a play. So then later in the drive, that brings up a 3rd and 10, and the Packers go back to that really soft zone coverage. They run another cover 2 invert, kind of like what we saw on that other perimeter red zone play. And this time the Bears just take what's given to them. They don't have anything deep. So Caleb Williams checks it down to Monungai, and Monungai turns it into a big gain. So great job from the Bears taking them what's given them to them. And then you see now on the goal line, the Bears are running some sort of just general passing concept here on a 1st and goal from the 8. And the Packers respond with either a Tampa 2 or a cover 4. It's very hard to tell on the goal line. But either way, it gets kind of stuffed here. They leave Quay Walker one-on-one with Monungai, and Monungai can't get any separation. So that goes nowhere. But the very next play, you see that the Bears run a similar concept that attacks what the Packers were just in. So they show, again, a very similar red zone Tampa 2 cover 4 style defense, and you just have a drag coming across the middle while you have Colston Loveland taking this outside shade release that would carry the hook zone, and then the drag works underneath of that middle runner in the Tampa 2 or the middle zone in the cover 4. And they just fired in for a touchdown. So that worked. And then the 2-point was genius because he calls this complete jumbo set, extra linemen in the game. And you have 2 tight ends, or 3 tight ends, a running back, and that extra lineman. So then they come out in I formation, which gets the Packers with only 1 DB on the field. And he's going to be matched up across from one of the tight ends. So you just throw it to the other tight end. Colston Loveland matched up against a linebacker out wide. And he just runs like a goal line return route. Very, very good play call here. I liked this a lot from Ben Johnson. So that's how they got within 3 points. So now on the final drive of the game, we have a 3rd and 4. And this is a very similar situation to what we saw the Packers running the cover 3 match in. So Ben Johnson goes right back to that spacing. He has the hook from DJ Moore and then quickly out to DeAndre Swift in the flat. Caleb Williams this time finds it, and you see what happens when he does find it. It turns into a really big gain. He takes it for like 20 something yards. Really nice play from Ben Johnson there. They clearly went over it on the sideline. Hey, Caleb, when it's a 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, you're going to see that cover 3 match hit the flat on the spacing concept. So perfect there. And then the final play of the game, that touchdown, I broke it down on the main page, but you see them come out in that wide bunch look, similar to what we saw from that second play, similar to what we saw from that prior man beating concept, a couple of the other plays we looked at. It all led up to this play because they first ran that screen in the 1st quarter. And with that tackle over Darnell Wright, when you release him, the Packers are going to trigger downhill as soon as he releases into the flat. They remember that screen in the 1st quarter. They remember some of the other stuff on the prior plays, hitting it real quick out to the flat. They all just correlate right to this play because they got beat in the flat. They got beat by that screen. They don't want to let it happen again. So they're all crashing downhill when they see that sold screen. You get the pump fake from Caleb Williams. Darnell Wright sprints out there. And then DJ Moore, he travels down the sideline. His man defender's nowhere near him, and it ends up being a game-winning touchdown. Beautiful play call from Ben Johnson. And it's really cool, I think, how it all led up to that final play, because it had every aspect of what we looked at in that final play. So I thought that was really cool. So basically all that to say, this was one of the best games I've ever watched. I hope you understand truly how complex it was. It really felt like when I was watching all the clips for this video that everything just correlated with one another. There were similar looks at similar times and similar situations. Thought it was absolutely awesome how this all worked together, how it really showed well the chess match that goes on throughout an NFL game. Obviously, not everyone is quite to this level. It was the 3rd time they played. It was a divisional matchup. It was in the wild card round, so this is going to be better than most, but it was an absolutely phenomenal game. I had a ton of fun making this video. I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for the support. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, do all of that. It really helps out my page. But I appreciate you guys for the support. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, hope you really got something out of this video. So thank you for watching.